I wonder if you recognize this stuff. Anyone used any cash recently? Loose change in? Yeah. Buying an ice cream. Useful stuff. Car park machine. So you got an ice cream as well. Oh, lucky you. It must be holiday time, mustn't it? All change. Well, yes, I used it for the first time, my change, in one of the roads nearby when I had to park during the week. You can park for free in the roads on Sunday, but not in the car park next door. You still have to pay your pound now. We are getting back to normal, aren't we? We have parking fees. But change. We're not using cash in the way that we did. Things are changing. And we cope with change sometimes, and we find change difficult at others. What have been the biggest changes in your life recently? We can all think about that. In your family life, in your holiday plans, in all the rest, in your work, in the groups you belong to, so much change. And what about church and worship? We're in a huge time of change and transition and renewal and uncertainty in the life of the church. All change. And sometimes we find it hard. But we have to accept change. Change is life. Life is change. If things didn't change, there would be no life. It's part of what we're involved in, this changing world and our own changing lives. And the changing church. And our theme today will be worship and the transforming effect of worship and God in our lives, the change that God brings. The wonderful change of a caterpillar. I mean, caterpillars can be beautiful too. I'm not degrading caterpillars, but they change. They're only part of that process. And slowly they, whatever the process is called, become, some of you know, metamorphosing. What a big word. I can't say that. Metamorphosizing. Yes. All right. Very good. Excellent. And then the next one. Into the monarch butterfly. We've been watching some of the caterpillars on the Corzen land. Monstrous black ones turning into interesting moths and butterflies. Be transformed. The love of God transforms lives. And Paul found that transformation on the road to Damascus. And we'll continue our readings from Paul's letter to the Romans a little later. So, the next slide. Then, be transformed. Don't conform to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may know God's will. That you'll be able to see, test, and approve what is God's will. God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. And that's how we want to be changed. Changed to be more in line with the love and the will of God. The will of God for each one of us. And worship can change us in that way, can turn us from ourselves to others and to God in love. So what about the change? What shall we use the change for? I always remember my first church. One of the elders, during the hymn singing, would always rattle the change in his pocket. Has anyone ever come across this? Yeah, I don't know what it was, some kind of nervous twitch that he always, and it was I was wondering about reintroducing this. Instead of singing in church, we could rattle change in church. But I remember Harry, bless him, did suggest that we should bring some percussion to add to our singing in worship. Perhaps we should, in honour of our friend. But you may have some loose change which, well, maybe you could use for ice creams, really good use, but there may be other uses, and why not have a collecting pot and put all the change that you don't need, maybe a little bit for the parking, okay, but the rest. And at Cause End, they're collecting for water aid. Trinity, I'm sure they can collect for water aid or whatever. But maybe we can use that change to change lives. But above all, may we be open to the change God wants to bring in our lives today. And it all happens as we turn from ourselves and all our plans and problems to this glorious, loving God.